Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from chapter 3, text number 41. Tasmatvam indriyanyado niyam yaya bharata rishabha. Papam papanam prajihi hayanam Jnanam vijnanam nasanam Tasmatvam indriyayado Niyanya bharata rishabha Papananam brajahi hayanam Jnanam vijnanam nasanam Tasmatvam indriyayado Niyanya bharata rishabha Papananam brajahi enam Jnana vijnana nasanam. Anybody would like to try? Tasmatvam indriyayado Niyanya bharata rishabha Papananam brajahi enam Jnana vijnana nasanam Tasmatvam indriyayado Niyanya bharata rishabha Papananam brajahi enam Jnana vijnana nasanam Tasmatvam indriyayado Niyanya bharata Synonyms. Tasmat, therefore. Tvam, you. Indriyani, senses. Ado, in the beginning. Niyanya, by regulating. Bharata Rishabha, O chief amongst the descendants of Bharata. Papananam, the greatest symbol of sin. Prajahi, curb. He, certainly. Enam, this. Jnana, of knowledge. Vijnana, and scientific knowledge of the pure soul. Nasanam, the destroyer. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Okay, let's repeat the translation. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport, Srila Prabhupada. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization. What does it do? Destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of self and distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31, Jnana Parana Guhanam me Yad Vijnanam Samanam Vittanam Saranasyam Tad Anganam Cha Grihana Gaditam Maya. The knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential. And mysterious. It's not only confidential, it's mysterious. But such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge. Two knowledge, general and specific, of the self. The living entities are parts and parcel of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is naturally for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness, from the beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulated principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manomistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavanam Musta Sri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunattam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanamasta Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, we almost to the end of this chapter. Actually just got 2 more verses and then we are at the end of this chapter. So it's been a very powerful educational experience to try to understand this concept. It's not easy because it's not an easy thing to talk about. At the same time, it's the topmost education. Because if one understands what is binding one to this material world, then one has an understanding of how to get out of this material world. And as we'll see just now, not everybody has an idea of this. This is only the 3rd chapter. And already Krishna is giving deep insight, deep information about what is keeping you caught in this material world. Today is a very auspicious day. It's Radha Raman's appearance day. How many of you went for the Abhishek? Yeah? So it must have been a wonderful experience. So how many people know of Radha Raman? How many people know about the spiritual potency that Krishna has here in Vrindavan? So many people in the West, they don't know. They don't even have an idea that they're not this body, which is the first thing that Krishna is. It's okay, I put it on already. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So it's the first instruction that Krishna is giving him. So this last section is starting from verse number 36, where Arjuna is asking a question. What makes one sin against his own will? So from that point, the rest of this chapter is following and is going to end with the answer, like Mother Parvati was saying last week. It's so depressing, What's the panacea? What's the hope after all of this? So just keep on hearing, we have this problem and lust. So what's the hope? So Krishna is not a masochist, one who inflicts hurt or pain on others. He's a very soft-hearted person. So he's giving the remedy and it's building up to it. So in today's verse, we're hearing about the 4 regulated principles. Well, it's 4 because Prabhupada has given us 4 principles, and we'll see just now how also, because he quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam. But it's regulation. Regulation is the key, because if you want to understand anything about this concept, needs regulation. And then in yesterday's verse 40, Krishna gives insight. We did in 38 about the coverings of lust, and then the 3 different levels. Anybody remembers the pictures we showed? What is the 3 coverings? Yes, smoke, dust on the mirror, and the embryo in the womb. So 3 levels of covering. And in 40, Krishna is giving the idea where it is found. Indriyani, it's found in the senses. It's found in buddhi, it's in the intelligence, and mana. Indriyani, mana, buddhi, it's found in these 3 places. So we know where it's found now. Now we want to know how to curb it. So that's what he's explaining today. So usually when we think of this concept of lust, we think, well, it's in the other person, that's why it's disturbing me. It's a big issue when you dealing with the opposite sex, like, that person is dressed that way, therefore I'm being disturbed. That person is acting in that way, therefore I'm being disturbed. But we've learned it's not exclusively an external thing, it also resides in these 3 places. But it is triggered, it is activated when one is absorbed in that meditation. So it's something to think about there. Now the interesting thing is that Krishna in 40 explains that it's found in the senses, it's found in the mind and the intelligence. So if the intelligence is polluted with lust, how do we use it to overcome lust? Because it seems to be polluted also. So how do we use it to overcome lust? So the remedy for that is given in the last verse of this chapter. Evam buddhi param bhutva samstapana atmanam atmana jahi shatru mahabaho kamarupa durassadam. This evam buddhi param bhutva, by projecting your mind onto the higher existence of reality. What is the higher level? Param bhutva. What is the higher level? That's the spiritual level. So by focusing on the spiritual level, or as we would say, thinking about Krishna, that is the remedy, and that Krishna gives in the last verse. So although intelligence is polluted by lust, but it can be used to focus on Krishna and on the higher spiritual aspect. Evam buddhi param bhutva. So it's a powerful concept to understand how lust can just overpower one. Like we see the example of Bharat Maharaj. He transcended right to the stage, the spiritual level of Bhava Bhakti. But he got attached not to lust, but he got attached to something, which is a symptom of lust. You get attached. So he got attached to a deer that fell in the water, a baby deer. He rescued it. Then as he started to take care of it, it became his meditation. Then he would even put his puja behind. He would even put behind his sadhana, just in order to focus on take care of the deer. And eventually when he left his body, yam yam vapi svanam bhavam yadante ante kalevaram tam tam evati kunteya sadadat bhava bhavitaha. What you think of at the time. So he thought of the deer. So it was not a direct expression of lust, but it was a symptom of what lust is, which is attachment. And look what happened to him. So the faculty of lust doesn't lie in the organ itself. It lies, it resides also in the mind, intelligence, and in the senses. So it's because we're trying to get to narrow it down. Where is this thing found? How to treat it? So this, yes, it's interesting. Even in this purport, which we'll go through just now, Prabhupada explains things. When we hear this word entity, Prabhupada uses this a lot. Living entity. What does it mean to you? Living entity. The soul, we usually regard it as the soul, but technically the soul, as we'll see in the purport today, living entity means the conditioned soul, because the soul in itself is pure, and in that pure state it doesn't have any upadis, designations. It's completely servant of Krishna. But in the conditioned state it becomes called living entity. Because the soul is eternal, so how can it be living entity? Living gives the idea of it's existing and has some time duration. Living entity. But soul means it's pure. There's no coverings on it. It's not conditioned. So that lust is not acting on it. Then it's soul. When lust acts on soul, it becomes living entity. Keep that in mind as you're reading Prabhupada's books. So in today's verse, Prabhupada is giving the remedy. He's saying start by regulating. That's why when we start our Bhakti program, one of the first things we do, we try to share with people that this is what we should follow. The 4 regulative principles, and nourish that by chanting 16 rounds. That 4 regulative principles immediately sets one on the higher platform. Param bhutva, higher platform. So there's an interesting word there in the Sanskrit today. It's Bharata Rishabha. Bharata Rishabha. This word Rishabha, we're hearing of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam class also. Rishabh Dev. What does Rishabh mean? Rishab. Yeah? A little louder?
The sign of Taurus understood.
I can't hear you.
The sign of Taurus.
Sign of Taurus.
Yeah,
No. We're speaking in context of here. That's why I couldn't figure out what you were saying.
Rishabha means the best.
Yes, the best. So Rishabha means the best. But at the same time, there's also another meaning for Rishabha. Like in today's verse, in chapter 2, we get also this word Rishabha in 2:15. It's called the Purusha Rishabha in 2:15. After Matras Parsat in the next verse. And in today's verse, it's Bharata Rishabha. So this word, where I tried to find some information on it, it actually in Sanskrit also means, believe it or not, bull. Bull, B-U-L-L. So it means bull. So why bull? Because in amongst the animals, the bull is also regarded as the topmost. The cow is also regarded as a high species amongst the animal kingdom. Because it's one of the species that one can transcend to human form. And of course the cow gives so many things to humankind, milk and things like that. And the bull also plows the field, right? So it also means bull. And a bull can also be very fierce and powerful, strong, like a king. Just the other day somebody was telling me there's a new sport in India called bull surfing. What they do, they fill a kund, like a swimming pool kind of thing, with water, maybe about that much of water, and they tie a string to the bull, and the bull starts to run, and they surf around the pond like that. It seems to be a new sport that people are doing now. It's called bull surfing. But it shows the power. Bull is a very powerful. It has over 1,300 muscles just in its neck. So that's why it can pull that plow like that. So it's a very powerful. So Rishabha also means this bull. So that's Bharata. Yeah, so in today's society, when you speak of greatness, like we said, the best amongst men, and comparing that to lust, in today's understanding, it's like a hero. Somebody who's a heroic person is somebody who's what would you see in the Bollywood movies these days? Somebody who's very frivolous. That's regarded as a hero. Somebody who just runs after the heroine, and they have all frivolous activity without what we speak of dharma or anything like that, right? So that is regarded as a hero today. If somebody, because in what Krishna's concept of a hero is one who can regulate, one who can control, one who is able to understand this concept of lust and control himself or herself. And that's a hero in Krishna's eyes. Because he's saying, Arjuna, you never met an enemy like this before. So if one is a powerful hero, a warrior, a soldier, a powerful hero, until you control this, then in Krishna's terms you're a hero. But what is the idea of hero today? Total opposite, right? Heroism today. So, Prabhupada makes an interesting point in the purport. He describes how lust attacks knowledge and spiritual knowledge, how lust, the first aspect that it catches is knowledge. So that's the weak point of it. That's why the intelligence is the faculty that can be used to transcend it. And usually we feel that. It may not be directly, but it's a symptom of it. Like you feel, I don't feel like chanting today. I don't feel like reading today. I don't feel like going to the temple today. We feel this symptoms of this. But it's just the expression of this lust in subtle ways coming through. So what I would like to do, just to give you an idea of what is the, like we follow these 4 regulator principles, right? So in Western idea, Prabhupada has given us the remedy that can help us to transcend the effects of lust. So I just want to show you with some slides quickly. Yes. So if you can see that, I don't know if this is going to make it enough. No. Okay. So this is an idea, is that money is the thing that gives us honey, right? Everything rotates around honey. Now this is a new concept also, millionaire. Have anybody heard of this? Somebody who has nil amount of money. So we heard of a billionaire, we heard of a millionaire. But this person hasn't got no money. And the concept of attraction, physical attraction in today's idea is that unless you have money, then you're a very attractive person. Doesn't matter of anything else. Now Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that those who have a late beginning in Krishna consciousness, many of us, how many of you are born devotees? Not many, nobody, right? So it's a very rare thing. It's a very rare thing, right? So we're not all going to have this kind of opportunity at a young age to experience Krishna, put Krishna in the center of our lives like this. So we all may not have this opportunity, but Prabhupada makes a point in the purport that Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even though you have a late start, still you can reach the goal. So all of us may not have this wonderful childhood of keeping Krishna in the center, but still we can reach the goal. So this is an idea of what marriage is today, speaking about trying to make it work. So this guy made this joke on this, that you test it by internet connection. I don't know, you can try it. Seems to. So Prabhupada makes this point about tolerance. That in order to regulate your life, you have to understand the concept of tolerance. That's why, right, the first instruction actually, Krishna gave guidance in the 2nd chapter, the beginning of the 2nd chapter. But the first instructive thing that he told Arjuna was, Matrasparasati Kauntaya. Learn to tolerate this hot and cold. So this tolerance, repose to this concept of lust, is trying to understand what is it going to do. If I'm going to go in this direction, where is it going to take me? And if I take the Krishna direction, where is it going to take me? So using evam buddhi param bhutva, using the intelligence on a higher platform. Let's see, there's another one here. Yes. So when people think of spirituality, religion today is based on what you were born into, what you follow as a ritual. Now, ritual is just an expression of the activity of a devotional activity. It may not necessarily show the essence of what you're offering. Like, in our tradition we offer a lamp. In the Christian tradition they'll offer a candle. But the devotional sentiment may actually be the same. So it's not necessary that spirituality is religion. You have to inquire into a deeper aspect of yourself. You have to inquire really, because religion doesn't necessarily touch the concept of not being the body. That's the point Krishna is instructing Arjuna here with. That if you understand this point of not being the body, then it's the higher Parambhutva, higher level. So everybody knows this animal? The panda bear. So the panda bear has a problem because like where I was born in South Africa, racism was a very strong thing. And racism is totally based on the bodily concept of life. So this panda bear has a big problem because he's black, he's white, and he's born in China, which means he's Asian also. So what's his identity? So he's saying, this is a stupid idea. It's foolish to actually, but this is bringing it back to today's verse. It's saying we're not the body. We're beyond the bodily concept. Because if you only see the body, then you're going to see the color of the skin, the nationality. But we're beyond that. We're higher than that. So that's the level where spirituality starts from. And if you pursue with lust, then what happens? Krodha bhavati samoha, samoha smriti brahma, brahmasyat buddhinasyo, brahmasyat buddhinasyo. Your buddhi becomes completely nasyo. Like today, last Sanskrit word is nasanam. Buddhinasyo pranasati. You will be completely vanquished. So this is what happens if you pursue lust to the nth degree, because you won't be able to control it after that. And once you can't control it, then you end up as a crazy person. So it's instructive that we try to raise our consciousness to a higher level. So what I would like to do quickly is just give you an idea of how in the West, we are so lucky. Prabhupada has very easily, actually if you read every single Bhagavad Gita purport, and I mean every single purport, Prabhupada starts in a very systematic way. He firstly starts by expressing you're not the body. Once he's expressed that point, he concludes at the end of the purport by saying, this is the remedy then. Once you're not the body, then the remedy is surrender to Krishna. Follow Krishna. So, I just want to show you an idea, just quickly before we go into the purport in a little more detail. Okay. Can you just look at that? Got it? Got it. Sorry about that. This one. Yes, got it. Okay. So, while I set it up quickly. So, this is an idea of how Western people, due to Prabhupada's books and teachings, are slowly coming to the idea that we're not this body. Now listen to this person's expression of the idea of not being the body and trying to be something higher than the body. Because this is Krishna's point.
Any thought that you have had about yourself, however deflated or inflated, is not who you are. It is simply a thought. The truth of who you are cannot be thought, because it is the source of all thoughts.
It cannot be thought. That means you cannot just figure out from your mind who you are. You have to learn it from a higher source of knowledge. Param Bhutva.
The truth of who you are cannot be named or defined. Words like soul, light, God, truth, self, consciousness, universal intelligence, or divinity, while capable of evoking the bliss of the truth, are grossly inadequate as a description of the immensity of who you truly are. However you identify yourself, as child, adolescent, mother, a father, an older person, a healthy person, sick person, a suffering person, or an enlightened person.
See, person. What is that? The body.
Always, behind all of that, is the truth of yourself.
So behind the person is actually who you are.
It is not foreign to you. It is so close that you cannot believe it is you. The truth of who you are is untouched by any concept of who you are, whether ignorant or enlightened, worthless or grand. The truth of who you are is free of it all. You are already free, and all that blocks your realization of that freedom is your own attachment to some thought of who you are.
You see how poetic this kind of thing is, which just doesn't give you a clear idea. But as we were reading, Krishna is clear, Prabhupada is clear, you're not the body. Simple, I got it. But if in the new age idea in the West and the new kind of thought, it's like this poetic and nature and things like that, then that becomes captivating. And then from there it goes.
This thought doesn't keep you from being the truth of who you are.
So we're lucky we got Prabhupada's books. It's clear.
It separates you from the realization of who you are. I invite you to let your attention dive into what has always been here, waiting openly for its own self-realization. Who are you really?
Finally they come to the point. Who are you really? Do you really think you're this body? Or who are you really?
Are you some image that appears in your mind?
Are you some image that appears in the mind that you see in a mirror?
Are you some sensation that appears in your body? Are you some emotion that passes through your mind and body?
So that's an idea of what the new kind of idea is. But as you can see, Krishna is very decisive, very clear. Kama rupa durasaram, this is it, Arjuna. You're all devouring sinful enemy. No messing about. This is it, decisive. So how fortunate we are we have Prabhupada's books to explain this. Now what I want to do quickly, one of our great teachers, spiritual masters in our tradition, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he wrote a book on this topic called Spiritual Warrior 2, Transforming Lust into Love. Very powerful book. It gives all the information on these details of this. Now he was interviewed on this book. I'd like to just play that quickly, and then you can see firsthand also what he explains it as.
Powerful of creating humanity and allowing people to live in selflessness. If you take selflessness, explain that leaders. It should be servitude content. Leaders, facilitators is a crisis. With somebody. Gratification. It is an extension. Second, it always will be there. Okay. But sexuality with sex control.
So he's asking Maharaj, you're a holy person. What do you know about sexuality and lust?
What does that have to do with a person of power, leadership position, and it could be any leadership position, jumping in bed with somebody?
Gratification. It is an extension of one's mindset that is about control, enjoyment, profits, distinctions for oneself or one's party only.
But now,
sex life itself. Now, there's nothing wrong with sex.
Okay, that's where I was going.
It is natural for people to procreate.
Okay.
Sexuality is universal.
Mm-hmm.
It has always been there, always will be there.
Okay.
But sexuality is different from genitality.
Mm-hmm.
People have a tendency of thinking that love is only sex and is only genital connections.
Mm-hmm.
People have a tendency of thinking that happiness is coming so much from only the genitals. And so therefore we find that individuals are not being able to have deep union, deep loving experiences, because it's so much based on just the physical body trying to connect with another physical body, or the genital trying to connect with another genital.
And you can never have ultimate satisfaction with that.
You cannot. Because why? Because real satisfaction, real love is based on connecting with another person's essence. And as long as relationship is so much based on just the externals, based on what is, based on some physical beauty, based on some sort of economic consideration or prestige, these kind of things are superficial because they're always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Now also when people think that they're just a physical entity only, then it's very superficial because they're not, again, related to the real person.
Same thing the previous video was saying. You think you're this person, but you're not relating, Maharaj is saying here now, to the real person, who you are.
The real person is that spirit presence that's inside of the body, is that consciousness that's inside of the body. So what's happening now is that many people in the Western countries, especially, and gradually all around the world, are being controlled by their genital. Look how every advertisement, from condominiums to houses to
MTVs,
is based on stimulating a person's genitals. So people beginning to think to the genital rather than to the mind and to the intelligence. And so that brings so much lust instead of love.
So then,
Okay, so let's hear from Prabhupada, the last part. So Prabhupada quoted a verse in the purport from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's actually one of the Chatur Sloki verses of the Bhagavatam. It starts from there. So, and in that Prabhupada explains this point about the 4 principles and regulation. So we're going to hear a little bit of Prabhupada and then we'll wrap it up from the purport.
There will be no fixed position, drinking, bath, residence. Irresponsible government means, the police government means that these things will be irregular, not regularized. That's it. This is Vedic civilization. Also,
Vedic civilization means regularized or regulated.
eating, there must be regulated principle.
There must be regulated principle.
Not that like hogs and pigs you can eat everything. No. There must be control.
There must be control.
Control is there. Already, just like in government, when you open a student, immediately there is control. You have to take license that you have to supply food like this or like that. You cannot supply anything rubbish. Is it not? Control is there. But because it is controlled by another rascal, group of rascals, say allow everything to eat. Everything. Control is there. But they do not know what kind of control should be there.
They don't know about control. What kind of control? If you can't control yourself, how would you control others and lead the nation if you're a leader?
The control should be, as we are prescribing Krishna consciousness, you cannot take anything without Krishna's prasad. That is it.
You cannot make anything without Krishna's prasad, Krishna's blessings.
Then we get. Control is already there. But they do not know because they are being governed by Kshatrabandhu. Kshatrabandhu means Kshatriya. Kshatriya means the ruling class. Khat means angel. And Trayate, one who gives you protection from being invisible, is Kshatriya. It is the duty of the government that every citizen, never mind whether human being or animal, he may not be injured by anyone. That is responsible. It is not responsible government. This is not government. Here we see Maharaj Parikshit, as soon as he saw these people. Why? The car is not national. She is also born in the land. So she is as important and national as he was.
Prabhupada is going as far as to say the cow is a national citizen. Why is the cow not a national? Like you see Indian national we say, right? American national. Prabhupada is saying the cow is also a national. It's a citizen, it's a praja, citizen of the country. What gives you the rights to kill it? Powerful, powerful statement.
Krishna has given her the grass to eat. She is not interfering with your food.
She's eating her food, the grass. She's not interfering in your food. We humans don't eat grass.
Why? What right you have got to kill? You have got your own food. The cow has got the grass for her food. You have got food grains. You have got cow is giving you milk just to give her protection. That you take my blood, turn into milk. Please do not kill me. So why these things are happening? Because there is rascal government. Only now to become rascal government.
Listen to what Prabhupada says now.
So one should have it that these we are under this rascal government, under this rascal guru, rascal father, but they who are meant for giving protection, they are all rascals. This is our position. This is calculated. This is calculated. Very good, and how you are situated in that methodon, that is another. If there is brain substance, then you do. Tad bhavati alpamedasa. Alpamedasa and sumedasa. There are two words in the Vedic language. Medha means brain substance. So, one who has got sumedha, nice brain substance, will understand something. And one who has got no brain substance but cow dung.
You heard that? He's got no brain substance, he's got cow dung. Very heavy, huh? Cow
Will
dung.
understand something else.
So that's Prabhupada's take on it there. So, okay. So let's continue with the purport of it and then we'll finish up. Right? So Prabhupada says in the purport, the Lord advises Arjuna to regulate his senses from the very beginning so that he can curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization. That's what we were trying to establish with the two videos before. That in order to even be thinking about self-realization, you have to come to the higher level. That's the goal of the next chapter, chapter 4. That in order to understand transcendental knowledge, at least you should come to the mode of goodness. At least you should come to the mode of goodness. And specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of the self as distinguished from non-self. So the understanding of the self is the body, the understanding of non-self is the spirit soul. Or in other words, knowledge of that of the spirit soul and is not the body. Vijnana refers to the specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship with the Supreme Soul. So that's what we want to try to develop. That's what Krishna is offering. Then that's the only way to transcend this lower nature, the base qualities, is to connect, develop your relationship with Krishna. And that point is coming to at the end of the first 6 chapters. The yogi who's yogi mam api sarvaisham madgatin antararpanam shradavana bhajatayo mam samayukta tamamataha. He is always absorbed in thinking of me. That's going to be the culmination of the end of the first 6 chapters. So it's building up to that now. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavat Purana 2.9.31. Translation: the knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious. Like you saw in the first video, it's not so easy. People are speaking about all poetic things, the higher self and in touch with your person, things like that. It's not easy to understand these things. And it's mysterious because you can't experience it with your 5 senses. And that's the way you gain knowledge in this world, 3 or 5 senses. But this knowledge, understanding this thing, is beyond the 5 senses. So it's confidential and it's mysterious. But such knowledge, and specific realization can be understood if explained with the various aspects of the Lord Himself. If Krishna explains it, Bhagavat Pranitam, that it's established by Krishna. That's why we follow Bhagavat. That's why we follow Bhagavad Gita. Because if it's given by Krishna, He's out of the realm of matter. He's on the Parambhutva, the higher realm. So if He's giving the knowledge how to come out of this realm, that knowledge is not mundane knowledge. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the self. 2 knowledge it gives. It gives us information about the body and it gives us specific information about the self, higher up. 9 chapter, 12 chapter, and the higher chapters, bhakti chapters. The living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. Thus this consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So right there Prabhupada has given our identity. We are meant to serve Krishna, not meant to serve the senses. If we use the senses in service of Krishna, then it's in its perfect situation. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. And those who haven't had that opportunity from beginning of life, then still not too late. Lust is only the perverted reflection of love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness, from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. We see that, like we saw those two children playing there with Krishna in the center. If it's taught from a young age, then it's natural to understand Krishna is the source of everything. Naturally, that is why the Gurukul system is so important. But if one never had that chance, still it's not too late. It is very difficult to return to the normal condition if it's nevertheless Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulated principles. This is how powerful. Just by following the principles, you're automatically in the mode of goodness, which means you become receptive to higher spiritual knowledge of devotional service. From any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Lord, and turn his lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. So we have a very wonderful opportunity. We're all already doing it. We're already practicing Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. But by understanding these fundamental points, it helps us to reflect deeper, and for our preaching when we're trying to share this with others. Like you can see that one video was saying, they really don't have an idea of what is the soul. They just know we are a higher being. They don't actually have an idea of what is the definite idea of that spiritual nature. And Krishna, right in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, clearly explains it. So we have a wonderful philosophy, a wonderful teaching, wonderful acharyas, wonderful devotees practicing it. So let us try to continue with that and try to share it with those who don't know anything about it. So we'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.